Islam, 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 Moorish America. Want to rise and give all praises to the great God Allah, our Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws. And honors to all of you who are a living manifestation and personification of everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. Peace and love, Moorish kin. I have a measure that I would like to bring forth, and it would actually be dealing with the life works and teachings of Swift Angel number 1, Dr. Akinakten Pert M. Heru Tutankhamen Bey, also known as Dr. ELIHU Pleasant Bey. And this special measure is in response to a lot of the back and the forth that I have seen being posted here by a lot of different Moors, many of them that are just jumping on the bandwagon, have no knowledge as to who this brother is and how long that he has been on the manifest demonstrating the work. So just giving just due and being honorable, we're going to bring some measures to the manifest for those who are earnestly seeking with a pure heart and a pure mind, seeking understanding. This is not a measure where we are dealing with hero worship, or a measure where we are dealing with personality worship and so forth and so on, because this is not our way in MAG, the Moorish American government. We honor man just as we honor the great God Allah. But we instruct and have also been instructed, that we don't serve gods outside of the self. And that's one of the master teachings that this grand man brought to us in this new era and time. Many of us speak in different ways and we talk about different doctrines and so forth and so on, being masters and adepts and all of these special drawings. But despite what you have heard, I have been able to bear witness, to the love that this brother have for his people, and also how the grand man has reached out on many different occasions, even after dealing with some of the things that he ran into in his journey along the way. He still has a love for his people. He may demonstrate love in a tough love type of way in this especially era and time, but yet the brother has seen many things take place. He's seen Moors harm other Moors, and I can go into many other different aspects of what the elder had been through along the way. But that's neither here nor there. What we are here to do now is give you insight into his history. But before we go into this special measure, this history, I want to go back to a letter from 2008. And this video, because I don't shoot, silent rounds, so to speak. I'm a straight shooter, if you're using that terminology. When I come with the scimitar, I'm coming directly. So this measure is in response to the brother Ross Sadiel, not in a way of chopping him down and going back and forth from that aspect, but I'm addressing him because, it's become a natural occurrence for this brother to come up in my thread and most of my posts, with statements in regards to dealing with the chairman. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up this letter from 2008. And in this letter, it actually has to do with the email, a letter, response from the chairman to the brother. And when I go through that, then I'm going to go through the history. I just want to get this small stuff out of the way first before I go into everything else. And this letter, again, is from 2008. We actually have a copy of it, but it's actually on the internet public record. And this was actually Saturday, December the 20th, 2008, around 12, 13 years ago. So I want to blow this up so I can make sure my audience can read with me when you see it. Okay. Yeah, so it's stated to Chief Minister Ras Sadiel, MST of a 1928 portion, and those who accept your hateful teachings in the name of Allah and His last prophet. Your name, 1928 portion, is different, but your methods, discriminating amongst the Moorish, is ideally the same. You need to learn to hear the words of the Holy Prophet, and you will no longer believe you have the power to nationalize or otherwise make and grade Moorish Americans. This baptismal hazing gives grand sheiks the illusion they actually own and can enslave those who may be ignorant of their unalienable birthright to be born with a nationality. Yours temple is operating no differently than the rest of the C. Kirkman Bey's Masonic-based religious NGOs of 1934. If you really want to be different, then learn to love and how to protect and obey our prophet. If you want to be different, then teach Moorish Americans how to be Moorish Americans. This is the sole purpose why Noble Drew Ali founded the MST of A in the first place. Trust me, there's not another MSTA in the USA that is holding steadfast to its founding purpose. You can learn how to be a Mason, good member, Arab Muslim, or a slave, but not a free Moorish man or woman. You enjoy being a leader, but have you been to sovereignty, autonomy, or national freedom? If so, why haven't your footprints been clearly cut that way? You may point where you have not been, but you cannot truly lead unless you have been there and back. There are more who know of my good works than those who have been misled by the media. I tried to tell your chiefdom why himself, Kirkman Bey, nor Arlov L were never made adepts. No more, you are not one of the prophet's adepts. There's less than a handful of adepts in the flesh today. It takes an adept allied to the prophet to make another adept. My teachers were Dr. Rufus German Bey. Both I and G. Cook Bey. G. Cook Bey signed my charter, original Temple number 13, as he had with his by the prophet, because Love L was a Mason and could not authorize the charter of an adept. Pearl Ali, Christina Price Bey, after she rehabbed 8 months from alcohol abuse in 1974 and 1975 in one of my Moorish community houses in Baltimore. All of these angels had their hands in the prophet's hand and mine, plus Brother Parker Bey, my adept mentor. Notice in his coffin was the Moorish flag and Grand National Seal of Moorish America. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the flag the chairman is referring to, he is referring to the flag that MAG is currently flying. So therefore, in the coffin of Brother Parker Bey, the flag and the Grand National Seal of the Moorish American government, was placed there. And you hear Sadiel always talking about Brother Parker Bey, and you know how he was taught by Parker Bey and so forth and so on. So these are the words of the chairman writing Sadiel. He say, once you have crossed the borderland at will, you cannot teach hatred or harm living things. The Masons who taught you were not adept. It is simply not in the Masonic will to make an adept, which is another word for God. This explains why you don't know who made you. I also tried to prove to you in truth the entire Lorden drama was a Roman Masonic retaliation orchestrated against me by their chief moderator, R. Lovell. This was after I brought him up on charges before the 1994 Grand Body. They were all Masons, and Drew Ali warned the preachers and the Masons would be the last ones to hear the truth and the last ones to come in. But you refused to hear the truth and lead your members astray with your portion of the conspiracy. Even the Holy Prophet could not make an adept out of a Mason, no more than can a man make a wife out of a whore, or teach a chief to love a swift angel. This is why the chief could not be made an adept, because you cannot gain strength from weak sources. You are now what your leaders were then. You are all mere organizations that cause the same 80 years of confusion to overthrow the laws of the Moorish American government. The greatest weakness of the chief is he has fallen in carnal love with Dr. ELIHU in Pleasant Bay to the point of obsession. He publicly calls my name more often than my other wives, and pulls small pebbles from the shallow stream of his mind about my use of so-called secret words and adept lessons, and show these off as pearls to the applause of his brothers. What you do not know is I am an angel sent to hand down the supreme laws of the last avatar. You are the same Moors who jailed the prophet twice until you killed him, has also jailed and have plotted to murder me. What reaction did you expect after 12 years of feeding hatred through Rome's medias to the unstable and ungrateful public? But my work is complete, and his pure and clean nation will is done for our people. Yet this email is not about a doctor who cannot make or spell a complete sentence, nor myself. Your beloved 14th Amendment Corporation is about to crash, and it will be the worst. It will be worse than after Drew Ali warned the Moors in 1929. What Moorish leader has a record of case law for freeing dozens of Moors from the federal and state facilities, like Drew Ali did for Marcus Garvey? And the chairman is referring to himself because I think it's around about 50, maybe 30 somewhere. He freed a lot of Moors from the federal and state prisons. He actually got them out. You know, they had like death penalties and life sentences and everything. And most of those particular ones made up the core following. Some of them went back to their old ways in the streets, and some of them remained steadfast, and some of them went back into the MST of A, you know, after he had freed them and got them out of prison. This is what he's referring to. But he said, never mind me. Now how many have you as their chief freed? You fancy yourself safe, but have no national sovereign powers to protect, guide, or to save the Moors. You are not even a man unless you have a free national standards and power. Any good Moorish leader who studied the divine constitution and holy Quran should be able to think outside of the small religious box that has been formed by a carnal nature. But you teach Moors to believe the Arab-influenced Moroccans' 1786 treaty, who sold the Moorish and Western Freemasons George Washington, who brought, denationalized, and enslaved us, will let you down again. Chief, you are very bold, and think the arm of Allah has weakened. I ought to just let you perish. Ali brought us everything it takes to save a nation, but you are too silly and busy hating to see what is about to happen under the watch of our prophet's new president. A friend will warn you, following those who teach their very mother to hate Pleasant Bay, and these leaders will also not allow you to make it through the fire. Then you're going to be amazed at how many fezzes and turbans will fill FEMA's chattel and railroad cars, taking them on their way to the 800 plus CC concentration camps in their land. As for the national ID card on my website, didn't Ali say your card is going to grow in your pocket? Had you lawfully inquired, you would have known this free card alone now has the power to acquire a foreign passport with an exit and return visa, and makes the Moorish Americans recognized in 186 counties, including the U.S. and Canada, just like Noble Drew Ali called out, and not as a religious property of a corporation, but as a free Moorish American national. Another one of your faults as a Moorish leader is you do not know for what purpose was the MST of A founded, but you voice so much hateful opposition about me behind my back until you have Sharif Bey's woman hate me, and some of your members threatening to kill me once they get out of jail. Not one of your members have ever asked me direct about my testimony. How can they possibly judge aright with that, with just your second hand story? All they have is what you alone have taught them. But to illustrate just how far you have scattered the prophet's flock, can any of your members hear the sound of Noble Drew Ali's voice from any source, especially me? After all, it was not the prophet nor I who said a Moorish American must to be a member of his MST of A in order to be a Moorish American. This is a world of difference between being a Moorish American free national name of 60 million and a member of any religious organization. Read Acts 6 and you will see the prophet separate that world with a powerful word. But you, he say you have it backwards when making all Moors members rather than freeing members into Moors. Drew Ali did say the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwest shores of Africa, Moorish Americans is our one free national name. Fool, oh fool, when will you learn the Moorish American exists because of their descendant nature, with or without the MST of A? We are simply not Moorish-sized temples of America because organizations do not have descendant nature. Organizations are formed and dissolved as the ethers change. This is why Drew Ali called out, "Come all ye Asiatics." Praise Allah, he did not call or see any fake unqualified Moors, because if he did, where would you and I be today? It is wrong and criminal to screen Moors and make them jump through hoops in a coat just to learn they were born Moorish Americans and not members. Pay attention to why our prophet said membership nationality is free, not only here but all over the world. Note attached business card handed out by our prophet from his office across the street of the MST of A. Love Divine, ELIHU, Pleasant Bay, Free Moorish American. This is the one, where the chairman was speaking. He also addressed a couple of more Moors in this particular demonstration, but I'm really just giving that particular measure where the chairman was addressing Sadiel. And in regards to dealing with this addressing of Sadiel, you're going to see how this history that I'm getting ready to show you here through a lot of pictorial expressions that I have actually in my archives that many of you have seen. You're going to see how they correlate pretty much with everything the chairman said. And this is just by me putting everything in chronological order, so to speak. He told you, if you go back into this special conversation, he told you, about those who prepared him. He spoke of the brother German BEY, or German BEY. And since he spoke of that, let's go back over here. For those of you who don't know who the Prince of Peace is, this is the brother German BEY, in his younger years, so to speak. And look at the symbolism here. Notice this symbol here. This is a universal symbol of the Moors, regardless of what body you have, the circle and the 7. Notice you see a law there, right? And you're going to understand why there was an unfoldment. Now, for those of you who don't know the history of the Prince of Peace, here is a brief history on him. It states over on West Baltimore Street, at the competing temple, the successor to Noble Drew Ali is Dr. R. German BEY, a retired steel worker. Dr. German BEY joined the Moorish Science Temple in 1927 at the age of 18 years old. Now let's think about the Prophet founding his temple. You see, the Prince of Peace joined the temple in 1927, and it is said that he helped to establish the first temple in Baltimore that year, which is actually the same time when you'll see that the Cook Bey brothers received their charter during that time. That's a whole nother measure. We'll get into that later. It's going to come into play. It says in 1928, he said the Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself came to Baltimore and tested 5 of the brothers. Brother I. Cook Bey and G. Cook Bey, in their recording, the video, speaking on YouTube, mentioned the Prophet coming, and giving them, signing their charter and so forth and so on. That's a video that's actually out there for the Moors to be able to see. I didn't want to put it in here, just to keep the time frame, pretty much shortened, so to speak, but it's definitely out there. I'll probably drop it in the link, later on after this video. But it says Dr. German BEY said he was the only one that passed the test, whereupon the Prophet blessed me from my head to my private and said, "My son, I want you to tell my Moors the truth." He was eventually to conclude that Noble Drew Ali had given him a mandate to lead the movement, for according to Dr. German BEY, the Prophet said before he left, "The angel has come for me twice, and if he comes again, I will be ready to go, because my work is finished." Noble Drew Ali died the following year. It was not until 1972, however, that Dr. German BEY was officially elected as National Grand Sheikh by at least one segment of the movement. He was later conferred the title of Prince of Peace and successor to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. As National Grand Sheikh, Dr. German BEY has brought 3 national conventions to Baltimore. The last one lasted 5 days beginning September 18th and was held in Hopkins Room of the Civic Center. It commemorated the 50th anniversary of the first national convention called by Noble Drew Ali in Chicago in 1928. Dr. German BEY said he sent invitations to all nations, including one to President Carter, Mayor Schaefer, the mayor whose photograph is prominently displayed at the Baltimore Street Temple, did not attend, but for the 3rd straight year proclaimed the Moorish American Week in Baltimore. So for those who don't know, the Prince of Peace was the one who made that contact with Mayor Schaefer with the proclamations. And you're going to see this evidence later in this particular measure that we demonstrate. But those who already know the history know what time it is. So the delegates came mainly from the Washington area. It says, though German Bey said the brothers in the East worship in the Arabian style, noting that while Muhammad was a prophet to the Arabians, Noble Ali was the prophet to the ex-slaves of America. He said there was some resentment against the Arabs because some of them sold the ancestors of the Moorish Americans into slavery. The Moors conform to the Islamic moral code to the extent that they do not eat pork and refrain from smoking and drinking. Dr. German Bey's temple is also active in prisons, where they maintain what they call preparation centers. At the Maryland Penitentiary, Warden George Collins estimated that there were about 80 prisoners who are adherents of Moorish science, or the Moorish Science Temple. The temple also maintains several businesses in Washington, including a restaurant, a health food store, a variety of stores, and car repair shop called Bays and L's Auto Clinic. So we can see that those who was following the Prince of Peace were most definitely industrious Moors. And for those who don't know, it was the Prince of Peace, who began going behind enemy lines, so to speak, in ministering to the Moors. And the chairman picked up this special demonstration because, remember, the prince up here stated that he received, his special, we'll say, titles in 72 as far as acknowledgement for the bodies, and the chairman came in the movement at 69. You see? So he was right there with the Prince of Peace, in most of the cases. He said he seen the prince walk through the prison, and often the doors, would just open. He didn't even have to, the guard didn't even have to come down. They would just open, the doors for him. And, the chairman was saying on how marveled he was by that, being that powerful, And so that's just some of the measures, that the prince demonstrated. And it's other measures. The brother was deep into polarity therapy. And we see that actually in this picture here. You see the charts here. You actually see the Grand Governor title on him here. It's given everywhere where he is. It's talking about the rehabilitation center and all of that right there. So the brother was a very industrious brother. And so when we go to talking about the chairman, he said this was one of his teachers. Everybody in this side of Moorish America know that the Prince of Peace taught the chairman. But one of Ross Sadiel's main thing is he tried to act as if the chairman and the Prince of Peace was beefing, when in fact the chairman was at the bed, the foot of the Prince of Peace bed, when he was, on the fringe of making transition. Let's put it that way. So that's a whole nother measure. This is another picture of the Prince of Peace. And many people, they have, this is a thing I notice about Moors, when it comes to dealing with, the leadership, especially if they coming from a particular grand body, they have a tendency, to just attack, different elders and leaders, and most of them don't have validation. They just going off of what somebody told them. So what we like to do is bring receipts to the manifest so that we can bring some clarity to our people. So again, this measure is really just demonstrating the life works and the teachings of, Grand National Chairman of Moorish America, and so you know where the brother come from. He ain't just somebody that came up in this new era in time and said, I'm finna go start my own demonstration and that's it. You know, and if anybody tell you that right there in the MST of A, they lying. You know, that brother been on the front line for over 50-something years, you know, teaching his people. You know, regardless of whatever lies and all this other type of stuff that's been put out here on the brother. And I looked at a lot of this stuff that they try to throw out there against the chairman, you know, and the way Rome was demonstrating. And Rome never mentioned the chairman as being the one of the guilty party. What they do in there is try to put the chairman on the forefront and take responsibility, because the Moors that was basically en route with the chairman was doing whatever they was doing, so automatically Rome was basically looking to put a monkey wrench, so to speak, in what the Moors had going on, because they was saying, okay, well, this is an opportunity for ones to be demonstrating some type of activity. Because what it was at this time, it was said that a lot of the COs and the police were intimidated because they would get statements from those who was coming in to teach the Moors that if they got in the way, that they was file lawsuits and everything else on them. So this lets you know that the administration had it out for those who was coming in teaching the Moors. You see? And then just so happened it was one that was behind enemy lines, that was in sync with those that was out here, you know, that was actually doing these things behind the chairman's back. You see, and basically it's just like if we was going in there right now. If I was going behind the enemy lines to the Disma Crips to teach some Moors, and I'm teaching the Moors, that's my only intention, and then there's some with me that I don't know got a dirty thought pattern, they doing things behind my back, and they working with somebody on the inside that's actually working with somebody that's out here in the same body that I'm part and partial of, and I don't know what's going on. When it all hit the fan and it hit the news, they gonna say that I was the chief individual at the head of the demonstration. You know, but in all actuality, it was something that was greater at work, you see. And it really boiled down to, you know, the way the chairman carried the measure. He was a fearless brother. You know, he didn't take no crap from Rome. You know, so not only was he an adversary to them as far as they was concerned, but also, you know, those who own the manifest, you know, behind his back, that were also working like moles, you know, they are the reason for this. And this, from what I can see, was most definitely done intentionally. As you can see, the chairman said that when he was trying to demonstrate in 1994, you know, with the Moors, when he was bringing ones up on charges, this is where this conflict came from. And everything that he said in his dates, you're going to see it collaborate with a lot of this stuff that's to follow here. You know, so I'm going to keep going, but you got to know these things here. You got to stop believing what people say about individuals, you know, and you know, just take that, and then this right here become your means of being hateful or hatred. To me, that's always been phony. I ain't never been the type of individual that can take what somebody else say, even if they in the MST of A, for example, and somebody speak something against them, and I'm going to take it. No, I'm going to do my research. And when my research shows some stuff, you know what I'm talking about, then I'm going to say, okay, yeah, that sounds like it collaborate with that. Especially if one blatantly demonstrating it and they don't care. You know, they doing what they do, you know, and then you can't get mad at, you know, me or somebody else if they pointed out this how that one was living. You know, but if you can't find proof and evidence and all this, they say, well, you know, they got these videotapes and this and that there. And none of them videotapes that they speak of do Rome say had the chairman in them videos. You see, and that's another thing. So you got Moors mixing truth with falsehood, and it really boiled down to Moors that's jealous of that brother, you know, because they know. And this is one of the things y'all people got to realize. In order for you to try to destroy the work of one, you got to assassinate their character. You see? And so that's all that is, a smear campaign that's being demonstrated against the chairman. You know, and then they bringing it to me, but I don't see it. You know, I open my arms, you know, widely, you know, if it's meant for me to inherit the same hatred that that brother had before me. I'm willing to accept that, but I'd never be part and partial, you know, of no fake and no phony individuals out here, you know, demonstrating, you know, this foolery, so to speak. You know, that definitely ain't gonna make me. You can't get me like you got the rest of them, because they was willing to listen to that foolery that you was talking about. You know what I'm saying? They was weak anyway. Every last one of them that was in the government. And yeah, I said it don't matter who it was. They was weak. That's why they left, for a position. See, I didn't come into the Moorish American government for a position. I was actually hiding and trying to stay out of the limelight, so to speak. But when I was called forth, I came forth as the great God Allah would have me do so. And I'm on the manifest. But this ain't about me. This about the chairman. So I want to point out a few things about the Prince of Peace. You can see him here shaking hands with the brother Grand Sheik Frederick Turner L, F. Turner L. And his father was actually a member of the movement as well. But Turner L is a very unique brother because he was said to actually been a part and partial of the MST of A back in 1913. You see, basically Canaanite temple. He was a part of it as a young seed, you know. And he was sent to schools in the East and all that right there from the research that I found on this brother. And the brother did a lot of work. You know, it's even said that he had hand because he was dealing with a lot of intercommunal organizations. You know, he established a lot of different organizational constructs to communicate with people on an international level. And he was in the court battling for the Moors, and then he was again linking, making ties with countries such as Morocco and so forth and so on. And so he actually is said to be instrumental in them aiding them in gaining their independence, so to speak, in a type of way. You know, I've read that about the brother, you know, but it was his Moors, a lot of them, that established the colonies. And if you notice his movement, he referred to it as the Moorish Divine and National Movement. And if you go back to May 1st, 1916, that's what the Prophet referred to his demonstration as. So when Turner L came up, you know, this is what he noticed. And from what I can see in his constitution, he had Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Divine and National Movement there. Almost as if, you know, the Moorish Divine and National Movement was the constitution originally, you know, and then when the Moorish Holy Temple of Science came on the manifest, you know, and it was adopted as such, you know, this is what it became in that particular paperwork. But that's a whole nother measure. I got it in my archives. But nevertheless, him and the Prince of Peace were very close. So being that the Prince of Peace and him was close, I see this relationship that is a grand expression of a, we can say, we could even call it a predecessor, so to speak, a forerunner of what Mag came forth to demonstrate. You know, it makes a lot of sense when you understand, you know, some of the lessons the Prince of Peace brought forth, as well as those of Turner L. You know, they were taking you beyond just being merely members of an organization. They was thinking on a more international level. So this is the brother Turner L again. here. And a lot of Moors don't even know this Moor because he's not really talked about. Just recently, he's been mentioned. That's him again, you know, right there at the City Hall. He dealing with some issues. I think this the one, yeah, this the one he was dealing with the tax issue or whatever, you know. But he had a lot of victories in those situations. Here's the actual charter here. And if you look at it, you can see his signature right there. You see it says Grand Sheik F. Turner L. So something else that's interesting here, which he was one of the Moors that left the C. Kirkman Bey body as well. His father stayed, but he left from my understanding. So you notice the symbol right here, the scimitar with the star there. And a lot of people think that C. Kirkman Bey created this symbol, and it's the ADEPT symbol. How can you create something when you wasn't even took through that special same chamber by the prophet? I don't care what happened after the prophet time. I'm talking about by the prophet himself, because that's what Morse said. He was took through the symbol, chamber by the Moors that was there. Yeah, the ones who chose him to basically usurp the authority, you know, of the demonstration. I'm talking about the prophet. Prophet didn't make him an adept, but he made Cook Bey one. Yes, sir. And you know, we can go off into the measures of history of the Prince of Peace being taught directly by the prophet, and so forth and so on. So that symbol was not created by Kirkman Bey. Only thing he did is colored it blue. And we had a picture where they tried to put a sister up there showing that, and she was standing next to the prophet, actually, on the picture when all the Moors standing out front of the temple. And they were saying, look at the medallion, and it's blue. But in all actuality, look at another picture, it's actually a white medallion. But it indeed was the same symbol, the scimitar and the star, which mean that this symbol was around then. And it also means you don't see Kirkman Bey nowhere in that picture. You just see Lomax Bey. You see Brother ELIHU. You know, Kirkman Bey ain't nowhere up there, though. But you see a sister standing next to the prophet with the scimitar and the star there. But that's a whole nother measure. I just want to make that plain as we go along. So this is the charter that the brother have, you know, he had back then. And notice that it says Divine and National Movement. And he was the one that put ink on here. I actually have a whole interrogation where the police was questioning him, and he'll tell you that originally it wasn't incorporated. He incorporated it later. I think he said in 1935 is when he said it. It became incorporated later, but it wasn't originally. The original movement in Newark, New Jersey wasn't incorporated. You see? Which Moors already know that. But that's a whole nother, those who in the know that. So this is necessary before we go into the essence of the chairman, because it's all going to tie itself in. The chairman said Prince of Peace was one who taught him. Everybody in Moorish America already know this. They know that he come through the line. They demonize, you know, mad because we come through the lineage of German Bey. You feel me? But the Prince of Peace did grand works during his time too. So for those who have so much to say, what have they done? And all it is you have those who have been pushing this history are nothing more than those who came out of street organizations like most of us have, you know, but they brought that behavior with them, you know. So that's why you hear me calling them religious gangbangers. Because I recognize the behavior of what they demonstrate. And they know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. So I ain't got to go into detail. But I know who they was before they became Moorish Americans. Saudi El and a couple of more of them. And anybody else know who they are, who they was before they became that. You know, and so one is not condemning one based upon who they was. But we are saying you bringing that mentality up in here, that us versus them mentality, you know, and you causing demarcation and conflict and confusion, you know, banging one temple against another and the one grand body against another. And meanwhile, the bread of our people being ate by another. You see? So I'm just putting this history out here so that who it may be concerned by this special demonstration, they can get their measure and then do their own research. But the letter that the chairman wrote to him that I read in the beginning, it coincides with everything that I lined up here. But this is the Prince of Peace here. You see him here, you know, again. And even the Prince of Peace was one who ended up going behind, you know, the Kirkman Bay demonstration. A couple of Moors did, you know, because they seen that's where the Moors had went in direction. But most of them you will also find broke away from that demonstration, you know, when they seen that it wasn't going in the right direction. And that's what caused a lot of these different split offs. So let me keep going. Want to say rest in peace to Sister Austin Bay as well, which was the wife of the prince. You know, well, you see the sister, you know, she was, you know, she draped up, she was in the light. You know, you couldn't help but be in the light and being, you know, wedded to a man that had his hand in the prophet's hand, you know, and never seen no negativity as far as for me in regards to dealing with that sister when I communicated with her, you know, no tension, no conflict or whatever. You know, like some older sisters I can mention, I ain't going to get into that. But we salute this sister. She passed form, and may the great God Allah be pleased with her. And I just put her here so you can see this other history here. That's her right there. And you see her right here with the Prince of Peace. You see? Now, here is a picture of the chairman, 1974. And he is in mayor's chair in Baltimore. And notice who is speaking of, the Honorable Mayor William D. Schaefer. And the Prince of Peace is the one made this possible for Moors to be able to go up in there like that. You see? But you see the chairman right there. He was honored as a guest. He got the young seeds there with him and everything, his daughters and all. You see this? This is 74. The chairman was doing this. Right? It don't stop there. Now that's the chairman with Sister Austin Bay right there. See Sister Austin Bay here? That's the chairman right there. So he was always doing something. He didn't just pop up more. I wasn't even born then when he was demonstrating. You know, this is some of the stuff that he was demonstrating going behind the wall. The chairman was one of the first Moorish chaplains in the United States, basically. You know? And he was in there teaching his people. And some of these brothers, you see Dent Bay right there. There's a couple of more Moors up here. They the elders over me. But some of the Moors that y'all look at as elders now, them Moors was being taught by that man. Now, where they are now, I don't have nothing bad to say about them brothers, but I know one thing, they can't say they wasn't taught by. Look at them real good, everybody that you can see in here. Because mostly all these brothers be together today. The one that's on the manifest that's alive. You can find in their pictures right now. If you go in the archive, you'll see some of them brothers right there with each other. But the chairman was going in there teaching and uplifting them brothers. You see over here, the chairman over here, they got the drill team out here. That was also in the 70s. Got the Prince of Peace sitting here. You got all the brothers and sisters. They go to chairman right there. You know, this is history, Moorish Ken. We honor it. All the extra stuff they talking about, show me your works. What Saudi L pictures at when he was on the manifest around this time? Since he was doing so much, you don't see none of Saudi L life works. You might see him standing next to an elder or something like that right there, but you don't see him on the front line like this right here. And if you see this, Saudi L produce it. Show me your life works. If you pay attention right here, you see this banner. This is what we call the Grand National Seal of Moorish America. And you see the chairman pretty much got this same symbol, and he brought it forth, from the Prince of Peace. If you go back to the picture where I was showing you earlier, I actually have another picture. This one right here. There you go, right there, yeah. Look up here, above the prince's head. You see the circle 7, you see the symbol? They have it all over the place in different spots. But that's the same 7 in the circle that we have in the Moorish American government. So that wasn't something the chairman just came up with. He inherited that and he held on to it, and he brought it back to us in the form of being the seal of the Moorish American nation. That's what you call unfoldment, supreme laws, right? Here's another measure. Chairman right here, out front. He done toted that American flag too. He'll tell you, he was toting the Moroccan flag and all that. Faithfully. Because he was thinking just like some of the Moors think right now. But the great God Allah gave him his portion of understanding to unfold into. And if Moors would unfold, you see this is 78 right here on this one. That's the same picture I showed you earlier, but they were there together. And I actually gathered this one from the archives of Sister Austin Bay. May the great God Allah be pleased with her. This is a picture of our beloved family, the brothers out there in Chicago, brother that they know of today as Chief Malik, brother Jeff Fordell, who had obtained a charter. Some brothers I heard brothers say from Pearl, Sister Pearl Drew Ali, or Sister Christina Price Bay, but nevertheless, due to certain activities that was taking place around the time, and I think the chairman say 78 or 79, him and the Prince of Peace, them, I think it might have been Brother Jackson Bay. They had a delegation of Moors to go to this particular location in Chicago known as the Fort. And they went in and they got the charter. They retrieved the charter. And I respect the brother Jeff Fort because he was a very powerful brother, and he could move as he willed at that special time. But the chairman them was soldiers as well. And the brother was respectful. That showed that he really loved the prophet. And he was standing for love, true peace, freedom, and justice. It wasn't no bloodshed, wasn't no harm, or none of that right there. Didn't have to go to war. The brothers gave a demonstration to the Moors peacefully. And honors to that brother, because he still hold on to the teachings of the prophet. So these are just some of the life works that are mentioned. This is the chairman. And you see him, he has that blue medallion on because he came through that same line that other Moors was under. So if he was right there from the beginning, he was there he was a Moor before R. Love L was. Even though R. Love L ended up becoming, chosen as the moderator that he became known as. The chairman, he was in the temple since 69. And Love L came in 71. He was an ex-police officer. You see? You don't see nobody holding that against him in his history. That's a whole nother measure, And I ain't going to even go into the history of Kirkman Bay when it comes to dealing with the Europeans and the Romans, because that's a whole nother measure. So this is the chairman, and you see him with MST of A regalia on right here. The symbols, the seals, and all that. And this is from 77, if I'm not mistaken. For those who don't know, the chairman was basically the reason why you have this colored photo of the prophet. He was the first to do it. Before that, right there, it was all black and white. ELIHU Pleasant Bay, the Grand National Chairman of Moorish America, was the one that basically began to take those pictures to be developed and bring color out of them. And he referred to this as acts of demonstrating his love for his prophet. You see? So for those of you who don't know that right there, he was the first to ever do that. Other than that, you'll still be looking at black and white pictures. So here's a particular document that goes through the history that I was just mentioning. It says, Brother R. Love L. was elected as Grand Sheik and Moderator of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Inc. in 1971, and later in 76 appointed Brother Maurice Johnson Bey as Grand Governor of Maryland, Brother M. Johnson Bey Grand Governor, and Brother R. Love L. Grand Sheik in 1978 accepted ELIHU in Pleasant Bay into the Grand Body. In 1979, ELIHU Pleasant Bay Divine Minister and 12 other sheiks from Maryland. Now notice, this is when he, after the Prince of Peace passed form, the chairman went into that particular Grand Body in 78. You see? But he had already been doing work before he met this particular Brother Love L. So let's not get it twisted. So all formally with R. German Bey. So it was him and 12 other sheiks basically. And it stated that they received their charter for Temple 13 at Midland Hotels Convention September the 5th and 20th in Chicago. Brother G. Cook Bey instructed E. Pleasant Bey to defend this charter and stand as the prophet is standing on it. And you would do well. This is the same charter that he referred to in the letter earlier, what I read to you when he was talking to Brother Rasadiel. This is the charter the chairman was talking about. Now, the chairman probably don't even know this history right here is recorded, you know, because he didn't give me this. This is actually other Moors, you know, gave me this demonstration from their archives. So, in this particular history, it coincides well with what the brother said to him in the letter, though. But anyway, Brother G. Cook Bey again instructed the brother, the ELIHU Pleasant Bay, the chairman, to defend the charter and stand as the prophet is standing on it. And then he said, you will do well. And the chairman has done well and is doing well, despite anything the naysayers got to say. Show me your works, Sadi El. Show me the works. You say you've been in the movement a certain amount of time. Put it out here. Show the Moors what you've been doing. What you were doing in 78 and 70, wherever. Oh, you was in the Disma Crips, probably, wasn't you? They say this is the same Brother G. Cook Bey sent by Noble Drew Ali to establish Temple 13 in 1927. And you heard me make reference to that earlier. That's why I said we was going to wait till we came to this. This is why we call this the original Temple 13. And you often hear me getting into it with Morse telling them there's a difference between certain Temple 13 that they talking about today and the original Temple number 13. This is the original Temple 13, the one that the prophet himself had. And unbeknownst to many, the chairman still has the original charter to that special temple. It wasn't given to him by R. Love L. It was given to him by G. Cook Bey. So get your facts straight. It say we write this history so you would know why Temple 13 holds such great value in Maryland today as in 1927. Temple 13 by the prophet and the grand body is the only chartered subordinate temple in Maryland. This is why all branch temples are united to Temple 13. The future subordinate charters will come through this charter. Notice it say the future subordinate charters will come through this charter. Now this is the powers of the charter that the chairman has. This is what we are told right here in this document. You see? Because it was signed directly by the prophet. You see? It came from ADEPT. Now if you go right here, and this is why I tell Moors, if your charter, if your temple that you're a part of can't be traced back to nail one of these, I don't care who your leadership say they is, it didn't come from the prophet. And I don't say that to be disrespectful. I'm just saying that to humble some of these ones out here that's trying to act like they the supreme this and grand that. But your temple can't even trace back to here. And that's why I asked Rosadiel, I say, brother, show me your charter and the address on it. Because that's all you got to do. If you want to check these Moors out, for you young Moors coming in here, ask them what their charter address is and their charter number. And if it's outside these first 15 right here, it ain't nothing wrong with the fact that it's outside of that right there, but just know they ain't who they say they is if they trying to say they're the original MST of A. Because for those who know, they know that the original temple was allowed to be dissolved by those who took power. So you can't lie and say that you the original MST of A. You see? We're not attacking the temple when we say that. We showing you and exposing those who try to act like they got a monopoly over our Moorish kin. Ain't got nothing to do with hating the temple. We love the temple that the prophet established. But we exposing the moles that want to remix up. Now, if you get mad with that right there, then you can't comprehend that. That's a whole nother measure. I ain't even trying to explain nothing to you. I don't care what you think outside of that. I said it clearly. We're not attacking the prophet's foundation. We actually defending the prophet's foundation. But those who are still in an apparatus claiming that they part of the temple, trying to make it look as if we attacking the temple because they have the name temple and we demonstrate Moorish American government. But we know what many know not. And we don't blame those who follow these particular ones because they are being sincere. They are being faithful, you know, to who they have came up under. That's all good and well, you know. But hopefully in due time they'll wake up and be able to see what we telling them. Not that the prophet did something wrong, but the ones that came behind the prophet is the ones that we getting at. Let's make that plain and clear. If you can't separate the two, then you don't know how to think for yourself. Something is wrong with you. If you can't think for yourself, you're destined to be a slave. But I'm going to keep it. It may sound harsh, but it can't be no more harsher than what you hear when you see people just slandering the prophet in all types of ways. And it's sickening. So the Baltimore temple here that's referred to in that particular document by the Cook Bay brothers is right here. Yeah, the chairman still got that original charter. So he could have came out if he wanted to and set up a temple under that charter. And it would have been legal and lawful. But he seen a grander vision. Unfoldment is what you call it. Many of them ones out there now, Saudi Air, them that got charters out there, they charter wasn't signed by the prophet. They done forged signatures and then say the prophet signed it. But we know better. You can't fool us. You can't give me snake oil and tell me that it's something that's going to heal me. So they got the lineage here. You see, they say Meliel, Kirkman Bay, you know, Nelson Bay, Blakely Bay, You know, then they go down to Love L. Notice it say 71 to the present. You see, it show the one that was before him that left. Then you come to Maryland's genealogy and the grand governors, which didn't have nothing to do with R. Love L. They came later, after the Prince of Peace passed form. Really looked like an act of unity, basically. Brother G. Cook Bey, ADEPT, Divine Minister, 1927-1993. Brother German Bey, Minister, passed 1930-1969. M. Johnson Bey, Divine, look at that. All of them. And you see the chairman was there for when? 1969 to 1981. It say, none of us desire to be misled. I will bear this a fact. Right? And then it goes on. Notice what it says here. It says, I will bear witness to the fact. However, your attendance should be supported by the above genealogies, or you may be on the right track, right? It say just headed in the wrong direction. Further read Act 1 of our divine constitution and bylaws, and you will see even the Grand Sheik and the chairman of Morse Science Temple of America can only make and enforce law with the assistance of the prophet, which is the state of the law in the grand body, right? The grand body is your board of directors compiled by the convening of all grand governors and grand sheiks from all states and temples throughout the United States. It has been intact, it say, with the doors open since 1928. Say the incorporating of the Morse Science Temple of America. It works similar to the United States Congress and the president. Then he says, in short, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, being divinely prepared, left the Morse Science Temple of America, Inc., in the hands of a government formed by sheiks. Now pay attention to this right here now. So you gotta be careful. Now, this is a powerful statement made in this document right here that has to do with unfoldment. Because you know that a corporation can't claim to be a political organization or a government because their status can be revoked for claiming this. But those who put this measure on the manifest will let you know, basically, when the prophet said he was going to lead a European here long enough to teach the Moors how to run a government, the government was supposed to be formed by the sheiks. But now everybody just want to be sheiks in a temple. And that's it. It say not just the grand chairman, and it say the grand sheik and the chairman. It say definitely not a single man. You see? It say he did say the movement would go down so low it would vanish from the earth, but then he say it will rise. You see? As the eyes can see, as far as you can see, I'm going to see red feathers and turbans and so forth and so on, right? So this is a powerful demonstration. And that's what we trying to demonstrate now, the rising of that movement. So if there was supposed to be a government formed by the sheiks and you don't see that on the manifest, you know, the chairman is the only one that was out there demonstrating. This is what the government of the sheiks would look like if the Moors was united. You got the prophet at the head. You got, you know, our brother over here, I think it's Bailey L. You got, you know, the brother Braden Bay, which we reached out to that brother, had a conversation. You know, it was all right. You know, ain't no conflict necessary to come up out of, just a little bit more to be worked with. You know, we spoke to the brother, prayed there. The chairman know that brother very well. You know, we hadn't had a chance to reach out to these particular brothers over here. Braswell Bay, I never had a chance to try to reach out to him, but I ain't never heard him slandering the chairman, though. I don't know what he has done outside of what I done seen, but I ain't never seen it, you know. Never seen this brother, Jones Bay, slander the chairman in public. I don't know. Maybe he have. I don't know. you know, but I don't see no conflict or no, you know, no drama with them particular brothers. None of these brothers right here, you know, I don't see no drama. This only one brother right here, you know, that I see all the conflict and the smoke coming from. And not only that, he talked pretty much against everybody. He speak out against everybody. Let him tell it he the grand hoorah. I seen him in one video talking to one elder. He said, yeah, he say the elder called him a agent. You know, I don't know how much agent is about the brother. I ain't gonna accuse him, but I know he looking kind of familiar over there with some of the activity he have going on. So then you got the chairman here in the center. Why did I put the chairman here? Because the chairman is demonstrating the government. And if all of these particular ones was on the same page, so to speak, the Moors would be free overnight. And that's why I expressed this in special measure. It can't be done just as an organization. Them 7 sheiks got to come together as a government, so to speak. The 7 postulates, the 7 eyes of Allah. See, that's what we're trying to demonstrate with you hard-headed, stiff-necked Moors. But you want a religious gangbang. You want to see those in mag as different from you. And then try to use the prophet teaching as a fig leaf as an excuse for your hatred and your misdeeds. Then you teaching this to young Moors and passing this conflict down generation after generation, making the chasm wider between our people. And it make it harder for people that's trying to sit down and demonstrate. But I also want to salute the brothers from these different bodies that I have convened with that already see the unity. Because if it won't be done in this generation, it'll definitely be done in the next generation. You know, getting our people on oneness, on the government, not just being slaves and so forth and so on. So that's why you see me put this here, Moorish Consortium, the Circle of the 7. Consortium has to do with putting your differences aside for the greater good of your people. That's what consortium is. We even got a whole page in Facebook called the Moorish Consortium. So that's why I say the prophet is still working from third heaven. And that's another thing. You think the prophet dead, you know, and that's why a lot of Moors act like they do, because they don't believe the prophet is alive and well. This is a message of unity right here. But you want it your way. Like our brother Mila said in some of his writing, you would have it your way. You don't want unity. And unity is strength. We ain't up here talking just to talk. We ain't up here trying to get you on the hero worship. We trying to get all our people to come together as one people. But y'all so ignorant, most of our people out there, oh, if they don't come up under this demonstration, and y'all ain't even tied to the prophet's demonstration. So stop being overzealous and come together as a people. You see our people out here dying daily. Other than that, man, if you don't want unity and you act like you can't comprehend what I'm saying, and you see me as your enemy, I see you as the enemy. I see you as an agent. And an agent provocateur, and you doing exactly what you was sent to do. You don't want to see our people come together because you enjoy it just the way it is. You content. So nevertheless, dealing with the works of the chairman, he been talking about this way before I was even physically on the manifest. And I'm 41, coming up on it anyway this month. So check this out right here. This is what the chairman presented in the 70s to these same Moors now. He was showing them the same thing that we actually read about those sheiks basically formulating government. And he placed this same lesson in his book. Most of these lessons in the Exhuming of a Nation all came from back in the 70s. But he's seen the comparison the Constitution of the United States with all the amendments, and then he compared that to the divine Constitution and bylaws of the prophet. Then he's seen the president and the attorney general, and then you see the grand sheik and the chairman. This is for those ignorant individuals that was mocking the picture earlier, talking about how y'all got an attorney general. The attorney general is the equivalent under the United States, but we call it the chairman, as the prophet brought it to us. The president is grand sheik. You see, the vice president is the assistant grand sheik. The Congress is your Senate and your House of Representatives of the United States. In Moorish America, it's the grand body and grand governors and grand sheiks. You see, that's how it's supposed to be demonstrated. This is what the chairman seen. This is when he was the grand governor. You see that? Let me blow that up real big for you. That's when he was the grand governor of Baltimore when he set this lesson. This lesson is from the 1970s. This brother been trying to teach these Moors that. You see how long? That's like 30 years, Moors. This brother been trying to tell y'all to come out of a state of membership into citizenship. I'll be frustrated with you hard-headed, stiff-necked Moors too. If I've been trying to teach you 30, 50 years basically, but this lesson here for 30 years. United States of America, local leaders, mayors, councilmen, judges, delegates of law enforcement, etc. Citizens, 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 citizens. Moorish American nation, subordinate temple, sheik boards, assistant grand sheiks, chairman, treasurer, heads of businesses, all outreach agents, etc. Members, citizens. And that's unfolding from membership to citizenship. That's what a lot of our people don't want to do. And unfolding from a membership to citizenship don't mean you leaving the Moorish Science Temple. And that's another myth that they done create. Oh, they trying to take over the wheel and they ain't even thinking about the temple. We doing the work the prophet called us to do. It's called unfoldment. And so the chairman explained it here, and this is what he was saying that he tried to get at the Moors in 1994. And he brought him up on charges. This is one of the things he was talking to him about. He got up in there, he said the Moors didn't even know what the grand body was. And they run around here talking about they sheiks and adepts. That's when he brought the brother Love L up on charges. And all the other drama ensued behind that. But the chairman say this illustration submitted to a grand body of Moors in 1995 clearly shows that Noble Drew Ali formed the divine constitution of an independent Moorish American government. He prepared a table before the Moors in the very presence of their enemy. See the proclamation declaration. During the past 75 millions have suffered. 75 years, millions have suffered needlessly under the fiend application of Negro, black, and color, not knowing they could have formed themselves under their own government using their own divine constitution. Yet when the light is before them, they comprehend it not. Yehoshua. So in other words, you steady talking about petitioning, to a government, talking about freeing you and all this other foolery. And clearly, in the records of the MST of A, the sheiks already supposed to have been demonstrating this government. You can't demonstrate that as an organization, again, because they would take your status as being a corporation. I know what I'm talking about. I have a corporation. You can't get involved with politics and all that right there as a religious corporation. So you Moors that letting people tell y'all that they're a government inside a temple, they lying to you. Spiritually, symbolically, yeah, you can use that language. But literally, a real government, no. Impossible. And that's not an attack at the temple. I'm just telling you the truth. All you got to do is research it yourself. If you get caught participating in political activities as a religious corporation, they can take your corporation status. They can shut you down. And that's why a lot of Moors in the temple, they stay away from that government talk and they say they subject to the United States. But then you want to try to play and straddle the fence, act like you're a government when you know you subject to the United States. Nothing wrong with telling the truth, because that's how the prophet set it up. Only thing, the problem is that you don't understand that he didn't mean for you to stay that way. If he told you he was leaving the European here long enough to teach you how to run a government, that's the only teaching y'all don't want to obey about the prophet. Y'all obey everything, and the only reason y'all don't want to obey that is because you don't want to follow the line that the chairman set down. If it was anybody else that did it, though, y'all would be right up there doing just what they said do. You see? I see through it. I'm going to call it like I see it. I ain't going to play with you. I don't care who don't like me, who hate me, or whatever. You ain't going to touch me, though. I bet you that. I bet you that. And ain't nobody going to touch my chairman neither. Bet you that. That's just for the record. So, anyway, dealing with this special demonstration here, government, you know, when it come down to dealing with that, Moors, you demonstrate the government as what government is. You know, just be yourself. So now, let's go back to what the prophet said. Prophet said, to all governors and grand sheik and head officials of temples, by order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he has said the following thing during this our very first convention. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, and look at this symbolism, Moors. One represents the preparation age, and one represents the fulfillment age. Salvation, our God, unity, bringing us all together if we can see it that way. Preparation age has to do with seeds being planted in the MST of A, Moorish in membership, right? Moorish Science Temple of America was organized to play a useful and defined part in the advancement of the sacred obligation of American citizenship. This is what the prophet said. I didn't just write this. All I did is took what the prophet stated here and emphasized it. I didn't change no words or nothing. I made sure it's the same. See the hand clasp of unity. You and I tie. You see, temple, government. When we have a meeting on the mind on that level right there, our people will be free overnight. Fulfillment age of fruition, MAG, Moorish citizenship. The Moorish Divine and National Movement was founded for the uniting of the Asiatic states of North America, May 1st, 1916. That's what we demonstrate in the uniting of the Asiatic states. But y'all don't want to unite. We got each party rejoicing in that which is of themselves, like the Grand Quran say, on their own little island. But no man is an island, or no people is an island unto themselves. Each living thing is bound by cords to every living thing, whether you like it or not. All you got to do is learn how to love. And that's why you see me here saying the lion must lay down with the lamb. And I ain't talking about Rome. Because in most cases, we think the lion represent the government, Rome, and then the sheep represent the people. No, the lion and the lamb in this case has to do with these two particular bodies right here. Then I stated the prophet, being due east, has filled the vacant seat as our sovereign Godhead, Sultan. He the only one that can get that title. And supreme grand ruler of the government of the world. That's just my point of view of it. The prophet is the only Lord of the Moors. So, then you see me here. I put this out there years ago. I don't just put this artwork out here, you know, just to be talking. I'm showing you the evolution. Out of one came many. From the prophet came the Canaanite temple, 1913. The seed, MST of A. You see, then came that Moorish Divine and National Movement, 1916, right? Then, after the prophet departed from Newark, New Jersey, came these different groups. Your Moorish Zionist temple sprung up 1919. The Fahmy Temple of Islam under P. Nathaniel Johnson came up. Then you also had the prophet bring forth the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, 1922. You see? Then you got the Canaanite Temple, 1923. And this was the Canaanite Temple that basically, we can say, revamped itself after the prophet had departed from Newark, New Jersey. Got the corporation papers for that demonstration with Dickerson. You know, the barbershop actually that the prophet, you know, where the temple of that particular place was, I think, above that barbershop, if I'm not mistaken, you know, in the Canaanite temple. But nevertheless, then you got the Moorish Science Temple that came out of that. This is evolution. This is all unfoldment. Then it became Moorish Science Temple. You see? 25. You got 1928. Then you had the Mohammedan Temple. Who had the Mohammedan Temple? Y'all didn't even know nothing about that in 1929, did you? All this was being demonstrated behind the Prophet Bite. That was Lomax Bay demonstration. Then you had the Moorish Science Temple, 1929. Right? And that's the one that was on the manifest when the prophet left the body, that later became remixed. They let it dissolve. And then you had Allah Temple of Islam come on the manifest, 1929. On the Farad Muhammad, Muhammad's Temple of Islam, 1934, on the Elijah Muhammad, which became the lost found nation of Islam in 1935. That's when they took the fez off their head. You see? And now you had a Moorish American government, 2007, which should be one that is able to unite all the people to come up under the one banner. Don't mean that you got to stop being whatever name you say you are, because you who you are right now up under the United States government. The chairman was saying, you know, come together as one people under your own government. The chairman know none of us gonna physically be here forever. So you ain't hurting us, or we ain't hurting, you know, we ain't hurting each other we hurting our people that's coming behind us. That means you thinking more of yourself than the people that come behind you. That's a selfish mentality. So what happened when you go and you pass the same conflict down to those who come behind you? That's why I say out of one came many, and only one can unite them. And it ain't got nothing to do with personality worship. He want this. I'm saying government is the only thing that can unite us as a people. That's what the brother been demonstrating since the 70s. It's just really dawning on me right now, just putting this demonstration out. His brother been demonstrating this since the 70s, man. When he was so-called, quote unquote, as y'all would call it, in good standing. And you still didn't want to hear it. So you think I'm finna follow up behind some ignorant individuals, you know, and go outside of anything other than what I've been demonstrating? You crazy. That'll never happen. I came into this demonstration, you know, mad, and that's how I'm leaving, mad. And I was studying Moorish science before I became a part and parcel of the Moorish American government. Almost 30 years. So, right here, the measure states the great meeting is on. And again, I was demonstrating the same science. Divine and national movement. Meg coming behind that. If the Moors come together, those who are calling themselves Moorish Holy Temple of Science in this era and time, those who say that they're MST of A in this time, you know, the Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Divine and National Movement, all of them have a particular role. Those who still like the civics, let's demonstrate civics under your own government. Those who are in the religious organization, be that under your own government. You scared to demonstrate self-determination? If so, just get out the way. And these brothers here, you know, Your Moorish sign symbol, Moorish divine and national movement, this is your consular agents. If you were to look at it from a universal standpoint, the Moorish clock of destiny Moors. They like law so much. If they was under their own government, we were together, then they would be the ones who would be the juridical institution. We got our brothers and sisters, they say they're demonstrating under the Moorish rite in demonstration. Well, they are fraternal brothers, if you want to put it on that aspect under the government. But at least you're under your own government is what I'm getting at. Whatever you call yourself, it don't even matter. You got your Moorish American Mufti Corps. That's our vanguard. Those who say they RBG, Garveyites, Black Panther Party, everybody that got that mentality, come up under your own government. Defend your people. No, everybody want to do their own thing. That's all the brother trying to demonstrate. And that's all I'm about. Universal unity. That's what made me accept MAG over everything else. I observed everything out here before I say I'm going toward MAG. I looked at Taj, Tariq Bey. I looked at everybody out here that was demonstrating. And this is what a great God Allah sent me. And again, you see the capital empire dominion of Moorish America here. Moorish American nation since 1865. Since 1865. Moorish Divine and National Movement, 1916 AD. Then I just showed the evolution all the way up into coming into government again. Then if you go into the teaching of the Moorish Holy Quran, right there in the chapter on religion, Ayat 10, it states the providence of Allah is ever all his works. He ruled and directed with infinite wisdom. He hath instituted laws for the government of the world. He hath wonderfully varied them in all beings, and each by his nature conformeth to his will. You see? So it's the same measure. Now, see, that's what the unity would look like. You see the chairman right there? Oh, yeah. This ain't no old picture. This a recent picture. And you already know there was some ADEPT activity going on in there for, Saudi Air running around talking about the chairman ain't no ADEPT. Well, you see Sister Austin Bey right there, right? Take a look at that. I know all y'all recognize somebody in here. I definitely do. So, from that aspect right there, the chairman in good standing with the Moors that he need to be in good standing with. It's all love. It's just a couple of other hard-headed, stiff-necked Moors that want to be on the foolishness in the hoorah. And again, rest in peace to Sister Austin Bey. Honors to that sister. And since I'm there too, I want to demonstrate this here because I actually had a... Well, that's all is well, all is well. So, we already showed you and we talked about these symbols. We see the prophet has his on here. He has a circle 7 side. This is where our flag came from, the same symbol that the prophet had. Then you have our Grand National Seal. We already went into that. This is the prophet's footstool for a reason. That wasn't what the prophet didn't bring it that color. As a matter of fact, if the prophet spoke of his symbol as having, well, he didn't even speak of the symbol per se, but he spoke of the star of the Moors being a green star. Where did this red star come from? Can anybody answer that question? When did the prophet ever teach on the red star in any of his literature? I'll wait. So that's why you see the green star here on our Moorish flag. See, and that's a close-up of the prophet's demonstration. Circle 7, right? And that's why we demonstrate the way we demonstrate here. We already know white mean purity, purity mean God, God mean the rule of the land. Stop playing. And that's why the green star is there, because the prophet spoke of a green star. That's a whole nother measure. But you notice the chairman demonstrating the same science that the prophet demonstrated. The prophet came from Pan American Conference. And when he had went over there, he didn't go represent the Moorish Science Temple of America. He went represent our nation of people. He went representing the Moors as a nation, not as a religious corporation. That's not a blow or a tight. That's just telling you the truth. So the chairman came back demonstrating the science of the same symbolism. All you got to do is pay attention to it. Then the prophet said he was going to repeat himself. I'm going to leave that for adepts and masterminds to sort that demonstration out. Even Pool Bay, because these are the words of Elijah Pool Bay right here. We must have a new government and a new ruler, and a teacher of that new government, since it is not patterned after the order of the old government world. And as the God of truth and justice and righteousness, Allah is going to be the ruler or creator of the new government. Then by no means can he carry any of the old world into his new kingdom of truth and justice, equality and peace. We must have a new government and a new people to operate the new government. This is Brother Elijah Muhammad, aka Elijah Pool Bay. These are his words in the MST of A, just as they have not, unfolded into being the government like the prophet told them to be. So the NOI is also struggling with this same lesson. It's not an attack upon the NOI. We just telling you the truth. Our brother minister, Farrakhan, he said he's a citizen of the United States and the United States flag is his flag. So he ain't thinking about building no government, even though Elijah was talking about building a government. This is in the theology of time. That's not the only place that he stated that, but I did a whole video on that. So you Moors know what I'm talking about, but I'm using the hammer of repetition to make sure you get it. So this ain't no make-believe government for all of those who think it is. Unlike many of those who lied talking about their government being an organization, these was the instruction from those who recognize governments, the United Nations. And they say this declaration of the Moorish American nation includes everything needed here at the United Nations in order for you to be recognized as an indigenous people member state. We have been expecting your coming for nearly 60 years. Now go formulate a government amongst yourselves and return back to us, the UN, with a tally census of Moorish citizenry. This is what the UN said to the Moors in May, and this was in April the 5th of 2007. We already had sent our declaration, proclamation of status and jurisdiction to them, and they accepted it. And there were many. I got the pictures of everybody that was there. Some of the people that have become leaders of our people now, they know what time it is. So y'all keep playing all you want to. And furthermore, the UN, even though they may recognize a government, they don't formulate the government. People have to recognize themselves as a government. Government is based upon the will of the people themselves. That's what it say. The will of a government is based upon the people themselves. And they asked us the question, is there a unanimous will among your people to be free? And our people don't want to come together in unity. You just seen me demonstrate it. So when you see that man right there, put some respect on his name. Put some respect on his name. Been out here 50 years. Some of y'all still wet behind the ears. Out here fat mouthing, talking about what you, if you was on a whole nother level before you came into this movement and you was in the streets and you was carrying a bone, you know, and taking a bone, how would you look to the streets? Let's just take it to that level, since that's the only thing y'all seem to comprehend NBC language. How would you look hating another man because somebody else told you, oh, this man demonstrating like that? You ain't got no proof. As a matter of fact, if you made the accusations on a man like that right there, what would that have brought to you? What type of conflict would come to you as a result of fat mouthing and running your mouth about people, and you don't even know the whole of the aspect? You just going on what somebody had told you. Are you real? Can you think for yourself? If you're a master thinker, then you ain't offended by what I'm saying. If you're a free thinker. But if you're a slave, you ate up. But like I said before, that's all you can be, ate up. And the chairman was also the first one to come back and start bringing the prophet's garb to the public. The pagri headdress, the shawani, you know, the whole nine. You know, now you got Moors, you know, they doing it all over the place all of a sudden. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. All is well. You're supposed to be trying to imitate the prophet. You know, but the chairman was the first one to come publicly, you know, demonstrating, you know, in this special way in this new era and time. You know, brought it back to the Moors. I wanted to go back here because if you notice, this is the back of the Resurrection Moors, the Dingalea Moors. This is, you know, the back of their book. And if you look at it, you see, even though they got everything drawn in red right here, they did have sense enough to put the open star here. He didn't close it up. You see, so the symbolism, you know, is on point right there. So this is nothing new. We already seen it go back to the prophet. This is a document from those particular ones. This is Reynolds L. And this is by the brother Richardson. And see his symbol here? The same demonstration that you've seen on the document of our beloved brother Turner L. His charter. You know? So the men say, well, that's the ADEPT seal and the ADEPT symbol, and the chairman made it into a flag, all type of foolery. You know? But you say the prophet didn't bring it. So you found out as a result of me putting all this out here, that's a lie. So now what else you got to say? Prophet say our flag is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. In the center of the circle. There you go right there. He letting you know the ingredients of the Moorish flag. And you like to have a Moroccan flag, all you got to do is put this on the background of that white right there, and what does it become? What does it become? So y'all beefing about minor things. Our people getting gunned down in the streets on a daily basis, getting killed, and y'all want to go back and forth. You know, like I said, I think some of y'all agents and agent provocateurs. And Allah, I'm going to be honest with you, Allah had mercy that he didn't allow me to be born during the time and be right there with the chairman as I stand with him now. It's his mercy that I wasn't born during that time. You know, because it wouldn't been, I just say this right here, the hammer probably would be honored, you know, when it comes to dealing with a special measure. But we're going to go right here as well. The prophet said every time when he closed up a meeting, he said a warning from the prophet. He said failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. When these principles are violated, justice must take its course. So technically, when you see him saying that, or hear him saying that in his paperwork, I mean, He talking about the flag right there. The spirit of the flag is all up in that warning the prophet gives. We just wanted to make that plain. At least I did. That's why I put that out there for you. And the same thing here. You know, for those who still can't comprehend. You know, they say, well, that scimitar is not really a shrine or symbol. Are you crazy? We already debunked that well. You know, if you go back into the previous demonstration that we put out here. This is Kemetic. Before the shrine has ever existed. Let me blow this all the way up because you don't see it. Right? You see that scimitar right there in the hand of that Egyptian god? You see them stars right there? This is in the celestial plane they demonstrating this measure, right? Before you even thought about a shrine. Arabian or Egyptian Arabic. Whichever one ever you want to think about. Well, this is what was stated in the prophet's works, though. And he said, the sage Minx, he said again, what? The wheel of time has turned once more. The race is on a higher plane of thought. The garments that our fathers wore have given out, and the cherubim have woven a celestial cloth, and have placed it in our hands, which is symbolic to the mind, and we must make for men new garbs. So when you look at that demonstration right there, that's the new garb. Yes, sir. That's the new garb. When you see that banner right there, the one right, yeah, that one right there behind the chairman, that's the new garb. The old garb is worn out. Now we're going to let those who are able to think deal with that as special measure and sort it out. So, in this special drawing here, I want to show you that all of our symbols are rooted in something. This is in Morocco. It's actually at the top of a temple in Morocco. You see this? In the Moorish land. This is ancient Kemet right here. You see the symbolism here, right? And these are two different cards here. I put these up here as well. Notice this card right here. It don't say I'm a citizen of America. But if you go on this card, it say I'm a citizen of America. You know, so somebody been remixing something. But that's a whole nother measure. We ain't even gonna get into that. So when you see me here with the chairman, I'm just a witness. I just came as his helper and his support and to bear his burden. So keep your hate coming. Keep your hate coming. Because it ain't going to stop us from demonstrating we on the manifest. We got work to do. Islam. Mag is on the manifest. You can believe that. We ain't going nowhere. Promise you that. We ain't going nowhere. Moorish movement. Divine movement. Everlasting movement.